Hello everyone, welcome to Focus Garage. I'm Onder here. We're going to talk about the R1. Last video we talked about the 5 things that I hated about the R1, and we kind of compared the R1's acceleration to MT10, not MT10 but FZ1, and kind of MT10 because FZ1 and MT10 was comparing themselves. And now I want to talk about 5 things that I like about this bike. These are the reasons why I kept the R1 instead of keeping my SV650 and Virago, because in my mind R1 does everything SV650 does, and Virago too. I didn't see a reason to keep those bikes because of these 5 things. Without further ado, let's start with number 5, which is the comfort of this bike. I know it's a SuperSport, it's a leader bike. No one really expects these bikes to be comfortable. And if you look at my seat, it's not as comfy as like a Harley or anything like that. It's pretty thin material of foam. Well, it's basically a little bit better than sitting on a cardboard. But why do I think this bike comfortable? First of all, it's a wide bike, so the fairings, because of my body, it covers my entire body, so I don't get wind anywhere in my body except helmet. So that's kind of great. So I don't get wind fatigue when I'm riding for a really long time, or get pushed around by the wind either. So I feel comfortable riding this bike for really long distances. And the other thing is that seating position of this bike. This bike is slightly lower seating position. My hands are slightly lower than my SV650, so I might be slightly uncomfortable than SV650, but I am a lot more protected from the wind compared to the SV650. And also, I can sit straight up on this bike just like SV650. So when I feel like I'm getting a little bit of back pain or something like that, uncomfortable, I can just change my seating position and make myself comfortable. You don't get that with the new generation of R1. You don't get that with any generation of R6 or any 600cc SuperSport, because they're more track oriented than street bikes. Surprisingly, this generation of R1 was the last generation of R1s that would be comfortable to ride it on the street. I know you don't buy a leader bike to ride it on the street, but you do commute with it. A lot of people do ride this motorcycle, including me, on the street, going to places. I have done my longest trip on a motorcycle was on the R1 a couple of weeks ago. Mike and I went to Southwest Wisconsin. There are a lot of beautiful roads there, but the closest one was 2 hours away from our house, and total round trip was 422 miles, and I did it on the R1. I was not fatigued, didn't feel tired. My neck was a little bit hurting, but I was down to continue riding for however long, because after 15-20 minutes of just relaxing at a gas station, I was okay to ride another like 200 miles or another like 120 miles, whatever my range was. So that tells you that R1 is pretty comfortable. I want to do the iron butt on the R1, which is a 1,000 mile in 24 hours. I think that it's possible. I don't know if I can make the ride back. Anyway, enough with the comfort. Let's move on to number 4, technology. Yeah, this bike doesn't really have much technology, but it does have really 2 cool technology that I appreciate so much. Number 1 being the traction control, number 2 being the riding modes. So the traction control mixed with the riding mode in a slippery situation, it could be, rain or loose surface, rocks or whatever, you are kind of covered. I mean, you don't expect, it's not going to save you 100% of the time, but it's going to save you in those moments that maybe you couldn't have saved yourself if you didn't have these the features. So R1 has 3 modes. One is rain mode, standard mode, and aggressive mode. Aggressive mode has, the throttle. It's all throttle mapping, torque related, engine torque related. changes. And A mode, which is aggressive mode, opens everything up. It's 100% R1. You can hammer down the throttle, you get all the torque. And B mode, which is the rainy mode, the throttle response is a little bit delayed, so you don't put all the torque down, and also cut down on the torque and lower RPMs and stuff like that. And the standard mode is in between, where you should use that when you're riding on the street, commuting, whatever. And also the B mode, which is a slippery mode, does help in traffic, where if your throttle is, if you have a stock R1, if you're in standard or A mode, throttle is a little jerky. If you use it in B mode, it's a lot more smoother. So if you're stuck in traffic, you don't need all the horsepower, so you can just put it in B mode and just relax. And traction control, you have 7 levels. You can 7 being the highest intrusion and 0 being 0, no traction control. So there are multiple times where I was accelerating a little bit aggressive, and I saw that light kicking on, letting me know that traction control is not allowing the rear tire to slip. So that's a good thing. It does have speed sensor on the front and the rear tire. That's how it does the traction control. It does not have lean angle or ABS or anything like that. 2015 model and up has those, plus with the linked brakes. So those are really cool features. I think when I'm looking for another bike, I minimum want to get a traction control and ABS on it, plus riding modes would be nice too. So going to number 3, which is the look of the R1. So there are a couple of bikes that I think it looks better than the R1. One of them being is a CVR 600RR from 2000. I might be wrong, but you can correct me on that. 2007 and 2008. I think it looks proper. It's a really beautiful bike. And other bike being any Ducati, to be honest, I found them very attractive. However, I don't find 2015 and up R1 attractive at all. It's a very aggressive bike. It doesn't look cool. It's something that you probably get used to the look of it. Just like the MT10. If you see it enough, you're going to be like, okay, like, I kind of see the lines now. I can now understand the design language. But initially, they all look just aggressive. Like I want to go, fight, That generation, 2009 and 2014, that generation R1 looks really nice. But especially 2012 to 2014, with the LED running lights coming down on the front fascia from the top of the LED running light, it just looks cool. I really like it. I think the lines on the R1 is beautiful. I think it's a cool bike. So compared to the SP650, it just looks like a street fighter, and the Virago is just old. But yeah, let's move on to number 2 on the list, which is the handling. Man, I have actually no right to be talking about this bike's handling, because I probably never reached the full potential of this bike when it comes to handling. But from my experience, I could tell that this bike handles amazingly compared to my SP650, which I thought was one of the decently good handling bike. Compared to where it sits, this bike, it blows that out of the water. I'm sure SP650 could catch up a leader bike on a track, depending on the rider. It really depends on the rider, because the characteristic of a SV650 is a lot different than inline motorcycle. This is true for any Ducati with LV twin engine, or a Honda LV twin engine. So, but from my experience, I could tell that this bike doesn't really take that much effort to get into a corner and set it up properly. It's in its DNA, and the shock in the rear and the forks are set up pretty well, and it just handles everything that you throw at it. And with the traction control, if you can lower it all the way down to level 2 or 3, still have some kind of protection. because there are sometimes loose gravel on the ground. It doesn't, like, it's so smooth. The traction control cuts are so smooth that it doesn't upset the bike. It's phenomenal. Compared to the FC1 or the MT10 that I have ridden, it's a lot better. I feel a lot more comfortable riding the R1 compared to that. I mean, I'm sure I feel a lot more comfortable riding the SV650 because I know that bike. I put enough miles on that bike to know where its limit. But R1, you cannot find the limit of R1 on a street, first of all. You gotta do some track times, and I gotta grow some pair to do that. It's a pretty fast machine, so you can get into a lot of trouble very quickly. Well, since we're talking about how fast the R1 is, let's talk about number one reason why I like R1 is the power. No denying this, I love power. I think horsepower is a lot more important than the gas mileage on any vehicle. But anyway, R1 has plenty of power to do anything on the street. I mean, obviously, it's not a Hayabusa or it's not the latest generation of the R1 or any of the leader bikes that are hitting 200 horsepower plus. But this machine, it feels a lot faster than the numbers are. So I don't know what's going on with it. It could be the torque. It could be how the under the curve. That's also an important thing. To be honest, I never actually curious to look at a dyno sheet of an R1, new one versus the old one, or R1 versus a CBR 1000 RR or Gixxer 1000. Never curious to look at it, but it does have quite a bit of mid-range torque and power, so you can get it. And the chassis, I mean, we talked about handling. The chassis is so beautiful that doing, like, MT10 does power wheelies constantly, and like looking at Mike's bike when he's accelerating, he's just like struggling so much. This chassis is so beautiful, puts down power so nicely and smoothly that it's just no drama whatsoever. And of course, it helps with the handling too. It's a stiff chassis. I mean, wow, what a wonderful bike. These are the 5 reasons why I kept R1. And I will tell you, if you are in the market for a leader bike, I will be the guy that tells you, go for it. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope I helped you guys a lot. If you guys were deciding on if you want to get an R1 or not, let us know in the comment what you guys think about this video. And also, if you guys haven't subscribed, please do so. These help us. And like this video, share it with your friends. Thanks for watching. Kudos to all.